The House Committee on Families, Children, and Seniors will now come to order. Mr. Clerk, will you call for the roll?
Chair Young,
Present.
Representatives Kofia,
Present.
Glanville,
Present.
Arbit,
Here.
Edwards,
Present.
McDonald,
Present.
Wozniak.
Here.
Fox,
Yep.
Johnson,
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have 10 members in the quorum.
Excellent. I need a motion to approve the minutes from our September 19th meeting. Representative Kofia moves to approve. Okay, well, today part two. Today we'll be voting out House Bills 4085 and 4086 that address the problem of youth homelessness. Before we hear from the bill sponsor, once again, we're going to go ahead and take testimony. We're going to ask that everyone would limit their comments to 2 to 3 minutes. And with that, I'd like to ask Ms. Catherine Boussard to join us with, maybe you can tell us representing yourself. I'm like, what's the name of this organization? Representing yourself. Yes, ma'am, have a seat, and when you're ready, go ahead.
My name's Catherine Boussard, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share this morning. I really appreciate the good work that has been done on this bill. I know there's substitutes, and they've come a long ways from where they started a few months ago. We just still have a few questions about how this will work in the real world. I know others have great concern, very valid concern for the safety of children, and they're much safer in a shelter than they are on the street, and I would be the first to attest to that. But some of our concerns are how law enforcement would maybe respond with this new law and thinking that maybe a child is safe in a shelter, or do you know if they've run away? Or did they leave under powers of coercion? And with the definitions, it's a little bit leery. And as I've placed in my testimony before you, there's copies of the federal law that require that children under the age of 21 are instantly reported, put into national databases, that the law enforcement community at every level will begin looking for this missing young person. And if they're in a shelter, we're wasting those vital law enforcement resources. If there's not some mechanism of reporting out, and if they're not in a shelter, how does the law enforcement community know? Are they in a shelter, not in a shelter? Did they leave as a runaway? Were they coerced? Are they missing? And we should be looking. I'm just not sure that those fine-tuned reporting mechanisms and communication mechanisms between law enforcement have been thoroughly thought out and developed into this policy. And my fear is that a child that we think might be safe could instead be in great danger. Another concern, I noticed that foster care parents are able to know that, or foster care children are exempted from this program. And it seems strange that we would give foster parents more knowledge of where their child is than we would a natural birth parent or a legal guardian. Shouldn't everyone have the same information to care and search and make decisions to look after that child in the best circumstances and work towards reunification? And then last but not least are just the constitutional concerns. And I addressed those a couple months ago. This is such an important issue, and I don't want it to get hung up because someone has a legal question about, does the state really have the authority versus a parent's fundamental right to know and control the upbringing of their child. And 72 hours is a long time, especially when that right is given to foster care parents, but not natural birth. I think you could really make a legal case there. And so those are some of my concerns. And again, I want to see children safe. I want to see them housed well. I just want to make sure we've done our due diligence on those issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we will hear from Harrison Glass in support of the bill. Harrison with the Youth Protection Council. All right, go.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. Is the red button pressed?
Yeah, it's on.
All right.
Hi, it's Harrison Gloss. I am the division director at a homeless and runaway youth shelter out in Saginaw, Michigan. I just wanted to speak today in terms of supporting the bill to go to 72 hours. And the reason being is that in order to get authorization to continue providing services from parents or guardians, we oftentimes see barriers in terms of contacting like other necessary parties, like if CPS is maybe sometimes necessary, other maybe like mental health resources, things of that such. And so by going up to 72 hours, it allows us to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of getting in contact with the necessary parties, and also making sure that the youth can stay there for additional time, more than what it is right now. And that way we can make sure that they're in a safe and stable shelter. So, like I said, I just wanted to show support today, but also one more thing. Oftentimes as well, getting in contact with parents is oftentimes a difficult barrier as well. Sometimes we deal with parents who don't have current cell phone plans, or sometimes we work with youth who don't even know where their parents are at. So trying to contact parents is oftentimes, difficult, but we make it happen, and having that 72 hours I think would be very beneficial. So, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for the work that you do with our youth.
Thank you.
And so next, we would like for the bill sponsor to come and join us once again. We know that these bills, we took testimony back in May 16th, and there have been some changes because that's what the committee process is all about. You come and you present and we listen, and then we take in what we've heard, and then we make the bill better. So I'm grateful that you've done that. I'm grateful that, after our testimony, you got input from the department. I understand that even the department is in support of the legislation, so that's great, but that's a part of the committee process. So thank you for coming back, and please feel free to start when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for taking this up for a vote. I really hope that since the last time we testified, that all the members were able to reach out to providers in your community and talk about what the potential impact is in your community, because we know that this addresses populations throughout the state of Michigan, and we know that there are amazing providers that are there to support our youth and make sure that nobody's left in a vulnerable position, potentially to be exploited. And that's where this legislation came from. Work on the Poverty and Homelessness Youth Subcommittee, and listening to providers and provide their insights as to what can strengthen the system. And these are two very just improving services, best practices that we've gotten guidance from the federal level that we can do better in Michigan. And so my bill, House Bill 4085, extends that permission window from 24 to 72 hours. I appreciate the testimony that was already offered. We're all here to make sure that we're providing our youth safe housing. And the ultimate goal of any of these providers is family reunification wherever and whenever possible. And we just are providing that safety net, and these providers are looking to secure that parental support from the time that those youth reach out and say, we need help. And so we just want to give them a little bit longer because, as Mr. Gloss provided for, some of these living conditions for these youth can be very complicated, and it takes time to locate sometimes the parent, adult, and guardian. I appreciate the recognition that there is a differentiation for those who are already in the care of the state through foster systems or through juvenile justice. That's already allocated for elsewhere in the state law. So we're specifically looking to shelter. Rep. Roth,
a lot of conversations over the summer. Most of my health departments were concerned about the bill at first, and then looked at it different ways and said, okay, they felt like they were being a little bit restricted, actually. So found that a little interesting. I thought we did a good job at doing what we think they should be doing, and we've talked about it. It's more of a clearinghouse. It's not, all services aren't provided at a homeless clinic. They need a parental consent to expedite them to another area. Now, I think the most concerning thing that came from the health departments is what they need to do to, especially with mental health, being able to provide services for those kids that come in with mental health, allowing them time to settle down and then talk to a parent and see if they can get them to another facility. That was probably the major concern the health departments have. I think our bills work with that. And Traverse City, we had a couple actually homeless youth were on TV and talked quite a bit about a parent that is not involved with the situation. This young lady's been couch surfing for many years, and now she luckily got a family that has taken her in and provided services for her or helped her out. But it happens even in Traverse City. This is not just a downstate issue. As it moves north, we have our own. So I think this was a reasonable work to be back and forth, looking at all the different angles, and we talked to many, many people over the summer. I think we're doing the right thing.
Well, thank you for this bipartisan effort. I love to see it. So with that, are there any questions from members? Okay, Representative Thompson.
Hi, thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you, Madam Chair. So on the flip side, I think a lot of our concerns as parents, I know with people that I've talked to, my constituents, is that a lot of children run away from home. And a lot of them run away from home not because they're in an abusive situation, but because they may not just want to follow the rules, or they may want to date someone that they're not allowed to date. So if my child were 15 and they ran away and found shelter at one of these places, what does that look like? Do they have to give a phone number? What if my daughter lied about her phone number? What if she said, I can't find my mom, I don't have my mom's number? Does that mean that I would be kept out of the loop for 72 hours and not know where my child was?
Potentially, but that's,
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. And I will defer if any of our providers would like to speak to this.
I don't think it's something our providers want to do. Obviously,
Well,
the
let's
sooner
let
we get a
them-
parent, yeah, better,
Should
but,
we,
yeah.
Madam Chair, would it be better if we let them speak directly to that question? I don't want to
Yeah, feel free to join.
offer
Yeah.
incorrect information.
Yeah, let's hear directly from provider.
Okay.
Thank you. But stick around, representatives.
I'll slide over the way.
So, thank you. Just quickly, I am Ben Moe. I'm the president for the Michigan Network for Youth and Families and have worked in 2 of the said homeless providers for the past 15 years. So to answer the question, it potentially yes, if we can't figure out how to contact you, but that's probably very, very rare. In my experience, kids who run away from home because they don't want to follow the rules aren't coming to a homeless shelter. They're finding friends, they're finding other people, and we're not going to interface with them. If they do show up at their shelter and we have a youth that we have no contact for their parent, we're immediately contacting Child Protective Services to help us with that.
So you
we
would
can reach
contact-
them 24/7.
So you would contact
Yeah.
Child Protective Services if they did not give a phone
Correct.
number prior to this 72-hour wait? That would be something you would do?
That would be
but-
something that was done immediately.
But what legislation is in place to say that you have 24 hours to contact that parent if we move this to, you have 72 hours? So if you don't have a contact and the parent, and we know kids do it all the time, I mean, the most wonderful children that go through adolescence can be the most problematic teenagers and then grow up to be just absolutely fine. But there can be times when they're teenagers that they hate their parents.
Right.
And they will lie, and they will say, you know, I'm very concerned about that. I don't think, I agree that there needs to be time to locate parents that are not willing participants in their child's life so that they can have safety and shelter. But I feel like we're riding a slippery slope with the parental rights as a whole. But I thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Well, the one thing I do know is this legislation helps to ensure that our children are safe. If they should happen to present at one of your facilities, we'll know that they're safe, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We also know that you're going to do your best to talk to them and potentially reunite them with their parents. You're experts at doing this. Now, how long have you been doing this at your facility? Or how long have you?
I've been doing this since 2007, so whatever the math is on that.
Right, right. And then could you just share with us potentially how many times have you run into wayward kids who have these beautiful homes that just decided to just be rebellious and show up and be gone for a couple of days just because they can? Do you have any idea how often that happens?
I can't put numbers on how often it happens. It does happen, and occasionally we get those referrals. It's usually sorted out very quickly because when you start asking questions, the story kind of falls apart and we figure out what's going on. When they learn that they can't come in without parental consent, then they either leave or we get the parental consent. What happens far more often, and I've had this happen in the last couple months, we've had it happen a couple of times where a parent is completely disconnected from their youth. They block our numbers. We've got to get very creative trying to get a hold of them, and they're not wanting anything to do with that. The way things are now and what this legislation aims to fix is not having to put that child on the street because their parent is not cooperative and we can't get a hold of them.
Yes, thank you for that. Representative Glanville.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here for these bills. I think it's really important legislation. One thing I wanted to clarify, just to follow up on my colleague, as I understand it, and so correct me if I'm wrong, currently you have a 24-hour period in which to attempt to contact the parent, at the end of which the youth is dismissed from the facility, and this would expand that to a 72-hour. So it's not as if, so it just gives you more time to connect with the parent. And they need parental permission in order to stay in the facility. So it's not as if they're coming to hide with you for an indeterminate amount of time, that this immediately, like as soon as they present, you are immediately working to connect with the parents, and this just gives you a little bit more time to get through that. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think of it as it's the deadline versus the starting.
Right, and that's what I wanted to make sure was clear, that it's not that you wait 72 hours to begin, it's that you have the clock is ticking. Okay,
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. That was my understanding as well, so thank you for that. Minority Vice Chair Wozniak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I asked this question when testimony was given previously. What happens if the parent comes in within the 72 hours and refuses permission for his child to stay? Do you let the child go, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
the parent is the guardian, the legal guardian of that child. They have the right to take them.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Kofia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Rep. Stone and Rep. Roth, for working together to bring us this legislation. I sort of have a follow-up to my colleague here. My understanding of the problem has to do with, frankly, just not having enough time sometimes, especially if the child is maybe being uncooperative and not sharing the accurate parent phone number, giving more time to actually find the parents, so 72 hours to continue that effort before you would then have to turn the case over to CPS, which right now it's 24 hours. So it's giving your facilities more time to actually track down the parents and get them involved before either the child leaves and just goes couch surfing or what have you, or they are turned over to CPS. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to speak to the creativity of our providers. I've really learned a lot through this process. Their ability to navigate systems and find information and look for alternatives to get a hold of those contacts that they need to. They're looking feverishly to find the best way to connect with that parent or guardian.
Excellent. And I don't know, I just know that I appreciate having services like this, because if it's my child out there and like we care about our children, we know if they decide to show up at your doorstep, they're going to be safe while you work with them, while you look to connect them back to us. At least we know they're safe. So with that, I say thank you. And so next, we're going to go ahead and read in our cards. Thank you all for your testimony. Thank you so much. Going to read in our cards, not wishing to speak but in support of the legislation, Sharday Burton from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Not wishing to speak but in support of the legislation, Danielle Siriani, Michigan County Social Service Association. Not wishing to speak but in support of the legislation, Tom Hickson, Michigan Catholic Conference. And last card, not wishing to speak but in support of the legislation, Bobby Doringo Jones, Michigan's Children. All right, so that's it for our cards that need to be read in. Seeing there are no further questions, I'll take a motion to adopt the H4 substitute for House Bill 4085. So moved by Representative Glanville. Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Chair Young,
Yes.
Representatives Copia,
Yes.
Glanville,
Yes.
Arbit,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Wozniak,
No.
Fox,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Thompson.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. The substitute is adopted.
All right. Now I need a motion to report House Bill 4085 with recommendation as an H4 substitute. So moved by Representative Arbit. Okay, Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Chair Young,
Yes.
Representatives Copia,
Yes.
Glanville,
Yes.
Arbit,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Wozniak,
No.
Fox,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Thompson.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. The bill is reported with recommendation to substitute H4.
Excellent. I need a motion to adopt the H3 substitute for House Bill 4086 of Representative Kofia. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Young,
Yes.
Representatives Copia,
Yes.
Glanville,
Yes.
Arbit,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Wozniak,
No.
Fox,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Thompson.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. The substitute is adopted.
All right. I need a motion to report House Bill 4086 with recommendation as an H3 substitute. So moved by Representative Glanville. Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Chair Young,
Yes.
Representatives Copia,
Yes.
Glanville,
Yes.
Arbit,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Wozniak,
No.
Fox,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Thompson.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. The bill is reported with recommendation to substitute H3.
Excellent. All right, well, there being no further business before the Committee on Families, Children, and Seniors, we will now stand adjourned. Thank you.